All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. I'm Brianna Wallace. I'm the chair of the Young Alumni Council.
Woo.
And thank you all for coming, spending your evening with us for our Trojan Connect event, our Forbes 30 Under 30 panel. Trojan Connects is a new series that our Alumni Association has kicked off this year, where we spend a week with various events from campus, across the U.S., even abroad, virtually, to bring alumni together to network and connect with different professional backgrounds. So thank you for being part of our first one. We're super excited. We have a lovely panel for us tonight. And what will happen is we'll have an hour and we'll have an open Q&A that we'll have at the end. So think about those questions, write them down. Thank you to everyone who's joining us virtually. We will make sure that we have that chat moderated and we'll go back and forth between the room and online to grab any questions. And before I pass it off, I just want to do a few thank yous to all the Young Alumni Council members in the room. Thank you for attending. And to Sarah, our Vice Chair of Programming, who has helped support logistics, Roberta, our staff liaison, who has helped bring this to life, Melanie and Steph, who are virtually monitoring and also been supporting marketing. And of course, the lovely Taryn, who is the mastermind behind this whole event from vision to execution. So if you have any questions, please feel free to tap one of us. I will be slipping out to go catch a flight. So feel free to connect with me virtually online and ask any of our lovely council members if you have questions. And without further ado, I'll pass it to Taryn.
Thank you. I got this handy dandy mic over here, so this is going to be for you guys when we get to the questions. But really quickly, just wanted to share a little bit. Thank you guys all so much for coming. Wanted to share a little bit about the Young Alumni Council. So we were established in 2008, so we're helping that young alumni stay connected, engaged, and involved in their first 10 years after graduation. And then if you have a USC graduate degree, raise your hand. Yeah, graduates, we love it. That is for 35 years old. So we have a lot of different opportunities with Young Alumni Council. We do service opportunities. We did something with the food bank recently, social events, and then career planning, and we also do student outreach. So that's a little bit about the Young Alumni Council. And without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So thank you guys all so much for taking the time to be here. We're so excited to hear your expertise and hear about your journey to Forbes 30 Under 30. So to start, can you guys give us an intro, your name, your current role, company, your major, and your graduation year from USC? And if you need to remember that, I got my handy dandy cheat sheet here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. My name is Weston, and I graduated Marshall 2016. After after that, started one startup in education, and that was for 5 years. And then after an acquisition, then I started my next one, and that one's in nutrition with AI, and how we can execute and give young professionals the performance boost using meal prep.
Hi all, my name is Julia Steyer. I graduated from the School of Dramatic Arts in 2018. I'm currently the head of development at Cold Iron Pictures, and we're probably best known for our films Swiss Army Man and Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Hi, I'm Alex. I graduated USC in 2018 from Thornton and Annenberg and minored in Marshall. I work in the music industry. I started a company that was acquired in 2022 in music artist management. I just started a new company a year and a half ago focused on records and publishing, so owning music rights. Super excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Hi, I'm Emily Hamilton. I graduated in 2017 from STA, and then I minored in SCA. And I am Director of Development at 101 Studios, probably best known for Yellowstone and the whole Taylor Sheridan universe. Thank you.
We love it. Well, you guys can, it doesn't have to go in order, so you can keep it. So obviously, as you heard, they have these amazing careers and they have these wonderful jobs that they're working in right now. So can you tell us, what does being on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list mean to you guys?
I guess I have the mic. I think I'm very thankful that, my company nominated me for it. And it just feels like a really nice recognition that maybe I'm doing something right in my job, because I think you forever will have a slight bit of imposter syndrome. Some people are just better at covering it up than others. So I will tell you that it does not still having the Forbes 30 under 30 does not get rid of imposter syndrome, but it helps fix it a little bit. But
Yeah, I definitely feel the imposter syndrome. I actually like had no idea that I got it until the morning of. Like I didn't know I was nominated or anything. So yeah, it's like super like amazing honor and like so grateful. I will say though, like it really doesn't change anything in terms of like your career, and if anything, it's like motivated me to work harder and do more and be a better executive person, etc. Just because I feel like you have a lot of more people looking up to you and your career and like what you're going to do next. So it's a great honor, but I feel like it also comes with a lot of responsibility as well.
Like Peter Parker syndrome.
But yeah, kind of to second that, I think, I mean, especially in Emily, I don't know if you feel the same way, but working in entertainment, you just get told no so much. And you also can work and work and work and be like, everything I just did not move anything forward. Like, oh my God. So it's nice to every once in a while get a little pat on the back. I mean, so yeah, I would say it's kind of to echo Emily. It's a little bit like, okay, you're in the right direction. You're doing the right things. Like, keep going.
I guess I have to third the imposter syndrome. Yeah, definitely. I think something about when I got it, it was I didn't know I got it until like my phone started ringing. It was really early in the morning, and I was in Vegas for a conference. And but it was fantastic because my co-founder at the time was with me, and we celebrated. And but quickly after that, like a couple maybe days, it kind of wore off, and it was like kind of like what's next. And I relate that to when I got into USC as well, where we all get this really nice packet, super stoked, and then it's like, okay, like we got into here, now what's the next step, like. And so it was just quickly after that, it was like, okay, how what's the next level look like. um, so yeah, it's like I don't really hold it to this day as much. It was just quickly, it was celebrate and then move on. Yeah.
I love it. It's a lot of humility in the room here. It's not just like I got this because I deserved it. It's like I am humbled by the fact that I got it, and you do deserve it as well. So that's really great. What skills have helped you get to where you are today?
Guess I have the mic.
You have it.
I think being an early adopter, and so I think that if you guys are familiar with the adoption curve, it's actually even before early adopter is called innovator. That's 1.5% of the population, and then there's early adopter. That's 3%, and then there's everyone else after that. And I think being able to just grasp on to the latest technologies, and I'm not talking about the iPhone 20 or anything. It's more like the chat GPTs or the AIs, or it's just try the latest technology, see how you can elevate your lifestyle, your just at work, be more productive, and elevate yourself using the latest technology. Because just by doing that, a huge portion of the population is not doing that. So you're able to actually elevate pretty quickly just by grasping onto this latest technology. And yes, I subscribe to ChatGPT. We do use AI into our own product, but that's because I'm able to see and feel and touch the latest technology and kind of grasp the future, while everyone else is kind of maybe a little takes a little longer. So I have like kind of like an advantage where you're able to just apply it to whatever you're doing, and maybe everything else in my life is like, oh wow, like this feels dated because I got to taste the future a little bit more.
I feel like I can reverse engineer anything. I reverse engineered getting onto Forbes. So I saw that everyone in entertainment, that most of the people were heads of development. At the time, I was like a coordinator, and I was like, I could do that. And so I was like, okay, so if I want to get onto Forbes, I have to become the head of development. If I want to become the head of development, I have to do this, this, and this. If I, I have to make the decks, I have to meet writers, I have to do all this stuff. And so I was like, okay, so I'm just going to teach myself how to make decks. I'm just going to start doing cold outreach as a coordinator and just being like, fuck it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I would say it's a mix of that and like an inability to say no. Like, if somebody offers me an opportunity, an open door, like I'm gonna walk through it and see where it leads, and then try to figure out how to leverage that to something that, maybe is actually more in line with what I want to do. Because I've been an assistant, I've been a writer, I've been a beta reader, and it's like, okay, well, how can I then take those experiences and move them back onto what I actually want? And so I would say being able to take all my experiences, being able to do pattern recognition of how to get to where I want to go and the steps that need to be taken to get there. And then I just don't sleep. So that helps.
They sleep.
Sleep is important. Yeah, I think like the most important thing for me was learning really good people skills and social skills. For me, that started when I was in school. I was in Society 53. It forced you to go out and talk to all different types of people, alumni, kids that weren't in your major, whatever. And that kind of inspired me to go and start reaching out to alumni, setting up informational interviews, and that's kind of just forced me to build out my network. Kind of, I don't know, going off of that, like the biggest piece of advice that I got from somebody is people will never remember what you do, but they do remember how you treat them. And I feel like that's kind of something I've carried with me my entire career. There are so many people, I forget who said this, that have said no, shut a door in my face, not answered my email, whatever. But at the end of the day, when you do have your moment and things do start working, they always come back and they'll remember how you treated them. So I think that comes with just like learning good people skills, learning to ignore, like a better word, like the haters, the people that don't believe in you, the people that like disregard you because of your age or whatever you're dealing with and wherever you come from. So it's kind of just like learning to look beyond that and to like treat people well regardless. And yeah, I feel like that's something that's like helped me along the way.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think also, it's prevalent in entertainment, but I think against all industries is just like reading everything, consuming as much as you can about anything related to your job, semi-related to your job, and just, it's like I'm always listening to some podcast or reading, I obviously have to read a lot of scripts, but I'm also reading books, I'm reading articles, I'm reading things that have no relation sometimes, because like then it might, who knows, I might make that into a TV show or something like that. But I think it's just like reading and knowing as much as you possibly can. You'd be surprised how many people have no idea what's going on, even slightly outside of their job function. So I think just having that extra edge of just reading as much as possible and staying up to date on the news of your industry. Also, I know it's dumb, but like networking and like going back to like a lot of you guys said, people skills and being nice. Like, you never know where one meeting is going to take you. Obviously, don't just, be nice. Don't just take a meeting to be like, I'm only going to take a meeting with people at this company because they can get me somewhere. First of all, you never know where the person you meet now is going to be in a few months, a few years down the line. And it just makes your job a lot nicer when you're just meeting people, you're being nice to them, they're going to be nice to you back. So just go out there and meet people, even if you don't think they can directly help you right now. Because you never know down the line, and it's a small world. Every industry is way smaller than you expect.
I love that. It's great because part of the reason I've got Julia and Emily here is because I knew them also at USC. So, keep your networks. It starts when you're at USC too. And speaking of USC, how do you attribute USC to your success?
Okay, going back off of that is at USC, you're meeting so many different people from so many different backgrounds, so many different stories. I'm from Rhode Island, so like smallest state in the country, very small, very sheltered. So when I came to USC, it was just, I was exposed to just so much I had never seen before. And I think just opening up so many new worlds and opportunities. I didn't even know my job existed when I came to USC. I didn't know I wanted to go into this field, but first of all, I learned my job existed. I learned there's more jobs in entertainment than, the generic ones you think of. And so many of the people I'm working with today are people that I knew at USC, just like by circumstance. Like we have a good friend, Desi, who works for Ryan Coogler's company now, and he's doing absolutely amazing things. And now it's like we're connecting and developing a project together. And the network again, it starts at USC, or even if you didn't know them at USC, I'm meeting them post grad at events and all of that. So I 100% would not be where I am if it were not for USC.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I would say like just be one thing about USC. We all kind of like laugh about it when we're applying, but it's just like there are so many well-rounded people that come from so many different global perspectives. I'm from Massachusetts, which is not too far from you. Super small town, and same thing. It was just like really eye-opening for me to be around so many different types of people with so many different ideas, etc. It's just like a really inspiring, motivating environment to be around. But I'll also say I feel like USC was so great at nurturing like education as much as it was career. Like so many people that go to USC are interning, are involved on campus, etc. And the school like allows you to balance all of those things. And so I'm super grateful that I had the opportunity to do internships while I was in school, because getting all of that knowledge and experience, et cetera, really set me up to be in a better position by the time I was a senior and working during the day and going to school at night. So yeah, that as well, I would say, in addition to just like being around people that are really well-rounded with a lot of different perspectives.
I would say one of my main reasons for going to USC is I was like, well, I'm planning on being based in LA, and I just need a network. I need to know people, like not like just like friends even. And so USC was really, really instrumental in feeling set up in LA, in feeling like I had a community, I had a support system. So just on like the emotional side, that was like one of the huge benefits of going to USC. I would say on the education side and the business side, I owe my current job to an alumni that I met through USC. I was like during the pandemic, and I was watching all of like the 1,000,005 webinars they were doing, and there was something, I don't know if it still exists, but there's like a website called like peoplegrove.usc or something, and it's an alumni collection of people who are like, yes, I went to USC and I want you to reach out. I want to talk to you. I want to connect with, recent grads. And so I met with a guy, David Fickus. He was running a production company, and I was like, oh, I think we have, similar, like, what we want to do with our lives. And so when this job at Cold Iron opened up, he put my name in, and he, like, literally got me the job. And so I was like, I can trace it back to him. And my first job in entertainment outside of acting and writing was because the internship that I had was only hiring from USC at the time. So I can like trace all my jobs truly back to USC. It's also just a fun place. So.
Yeah, I think I have to echo just the people. I think just in such a small radius, we have such talented, really smart people. Just down the dorm hall, you can have a genius, and so I think that's something. Even there's education, but I think there's education online. I listen to podcasts and similar, and then in YouTube videos, and I can self-learning even to today. So I don't know about as much as the education, but the people is just like being there with people in just such a dense amount of space that are just as ambitious and smart. That's something very aspiring. Also, just it's even like after graduation, it's just so hard to meet those type of people, and so you got to come to events like these where.
Plugging the Young Alumni Council events and everything right here. Insert plug.
Yes.
I love it. So, do you guys have a favorite memory from your time at USC?
Mine is just at the USC incubator, they give you keys to the office, which is really cool. And so I had my own office, and so I was super excited. But we had huge deadlines, and so I don't know if Paul Orlando is watching this, but we were sleeping in the office, just trying to put as much hours as possible in there. So I appreciate it, and even for young alumni, I think they accept people that are even up to 5 years graduated. So it's a good resource even after as an alumni.
I have also had to sleep in a building here because the alarm was set and I had a final due the next morning. So I feel that the SDA Sound Lab has a very comfy floor. God, there's so many. I think I was thinking about this on the drive over, and I think one of my favorite memories was senior year. I was finally trying my hand at writing, and I got it into a theater company here at USC, and it was opening night, and I was terrified. And my best friend just sat next to me and held my hand the entire time, squeezed the life out of it, and it was just like, yeah, like this is what college is about. Like I'm meeting my best friend who's still, she's still a part of my life to this day. I'm trying something new. I'm finding a new creative outlet that I love. And just, USC was able to like set all that up to happen. I'm not even sure if I'm making sense right now. But yeah.
That was a good one. I have two. I would say the first is like suppers, which is like a thing that Society 53 does, where alumni hosts a bunch of current students for dinner. It might be good for actually us three to do one sometime, because there's like I hosted one as an alumni, and it was super fun, and had like a bunch of kids come like 2 years after I graduated. Society 53 is like the ambassador, like you basically act as an ambassador between the student body and alumni. Yeah, it was super fun. But yeah, I was an attendee of suppers, and then I hosted suppers, and I think it's just like a great way to build community, really low stress. So I would say that was like something I really enjoyed. And then also just like growing with all of these people who were developing their career at the same time as me. So I started as a manager. All of the people I helped manage got Grammy nominations this year, and it was like so fun watching my friends who I went to school with like win Grammys or start to get their recognition. And it was cool to like be building my business when they were building as artists and starting their career out, etc. USC has like a really amazing roster of musicians that are absolutely crushing it right now, like Remy Wolf and McGee and King Princess and 24K Gold, and all of these people were in school the same time that we were. So it's really cool to just be like part of seeing that, like hosting concerts on the green that like nobody came to, and now all of these people are winning Grammys, and it's like so fun to just like have built my career around all of these super talented people. So I would say that is also a great memory to kind of see come to fruition now.
Yeah, off of that, I feel like in entertainment too. Like I was just talking about this with Julia before, but it was like when I was I don't know, I actually talked about this, but one of the, I think we were talking about it, when I was just at Sundance last week, and I was watching the big new J-Lo musical, and I was like, oh my God, that lead looks so familiar. And I'm like, oh my God, they were in one of the student written directed plays for brand new theater that I worked on back in school. And, and it's so cool seeing, other writers. I get submitted like writers for some movies and TV shows I'm working on. I'm like, oh my God, I remember when they were in my writing 340 class. It's just so cool to see everyone. But I think one of my favorite memories was I was super involved in Troy Camp, if you guys remember that, past the can at homecoming and stuff. And I think going to camp every summer with, all these 3rd through 5th graders, because I never got to go to camp when I was a kid either. So it was really fun for me too, but it was just so cool. Just, we're spending a week in the cabins in the mountains up in Idlewild, and just, I don't know. It's just the most magical experience. I don't know how to describe it. And then working with those kids that following year, and to the point where now one of the campers I was working with, I feel so old. It's like she's at USC now as a senior, and she's graduating this year. And I'm like, I remember when you were summer camp in like 5th grade, and it's just so cool to see, the full circle, and that kind of lifelong mentorship, as we say. But yeah.
I love that. That's so special now that it's like full circle, that she's come back to everything, and that our 10-year reunion is closer than we thought it would be. what advice do you have for the young alumni looking to achieve at the highest level of their industry and their passion, and get the recognition and esteemed award, such as the Forbes 30 Under 30 list?
I think a lot of it goes back to kind of what we've said before. But also, part of it, I think, is working smarter, not harder. Because I see so many people who burn themselves out trying to do absolutely everything. And I know I said like 10 minutes ago, meet everyone, but that's also not possible. So I think, it's realizing looking at all the tasks you have to do and be like, has the like immediate next steps, what is going to get me to my next goal, as well as working on like the short-term goals, the long-term goals, or you go back to school and we talked about like the SMART goals. But I think it's like looking at what you have to do and realizing that just because you're putting in 24-hour days doesn't necessarily mean you're getting any closer to your goal. I think you need to be like, how can I balance this out? Because I think some of my sanity is due to the fact that I have a very well-established work-life balance. And that's because, again, I burnt out and I realized I need to be working smarter, not harder. Like I could be reading 10,000 scripts a day, but I know within the first 30 pages most of the time, is this a script for my company or not? So, sometimes it's just like one example is leaving after page 30 and knowing, okay, this isn't a script for my company. So smart, not hard.
That's great advice. I would say having a really strong sense of self. Like something I say is like that I've spent a lot of time like thinking about is like, what is my ethos? What do I stand for? And how do I make sure that I am following through on that and like outwardly presenting in that way as well? Like for me, kind of my motto is like everything I want my thoughts, my words, and my actions to align with each other. And if they're not doing that, then I'm not following through on what I'm doing. And that's kind of just been something that I've been really firm about specifically over the last 2 years. And I have found that in doing that and being more intentional and just like really standing by what I believe to be good integrity, I've made a lot smarter, more strategic decisions. And I think that kind of goes back to working smarter, not harder. Like I would rather pass on an opportunity that maybe would make me a lot of money, but won't like let me stay sane. Like that's really important. Or maybe with a person who I feel like's values don't align with my values. And I feel like that's something had I learned earlier on, or had I realized what my ethos was earlier on, I probably would have moved a lot faster. I don't regret anything, but I do think that having a really strong sense of self and figuring out what your ethos is and standing by it throughout your whole career is like one of the most important things you can do.
I want to follow that. That was beautiful. No, the biggest thing I think I've learned over the past few years, especially, is to ask for what you want. Like I literally had to ask for my job title. I was like, "Hey, I've noticed no one's doing it. Can I get promoted?" Like, because nobody is thinking about you. They're all thinking about themselves. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I just mean we're all doing 1,000,005 things. We're all running around like our hairs, except for these two. They have great work-life balance from what I've heard. And I'm very jealous, and teach me your ways. But everyone's focused on themselves. Everybody's focused on what they want to do, what they're trying to pursue, that if you don't speak up for yourself, no one else will. It took me a while to learn that one, and I still struggle with it. But if you can learn that and you can learn it fast, Godspeed.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I struggled with it coming out of college. I think going through USC, it is a bunch of ambitious people, but I think in Marshall especially, there was a kind of, you had to go on either two tracks. It's investment banking or you go into consulting. Maybe that's changed nowadays, but that sense of pressure was there while I was going through it. And so I did choose consulting, and I was only there for a year and a half. But I think that mindset was kind of like, you have it was originated from a certain class. You have to when you go to class, you're like, okay, I have to do these tests. I have to test well. I have to get good grades on these final exams. And I think that kind of created a more of just grinding, or feel like I just need to break through walls and just pure motivation and adrenaline and just go through it and just to get good grades. But I think going thereafter, it was I had I had during consulting had burnout, just a lot of just not taking care of myself. And I think that I switched from what can I do well at, but switched it to more what can I be obsessed over? What topics can I obsess over, continuously think about? That's something that can actually give me energy, something that I can, a topic that I can always like feel free, like even in my free time, go on a like listen to podcasts or YouTube videos. And I think when you flip it to instead of, and I know you mentioned work-life balance, but when you flip it from work-life balance to work is giving me energy, I think then I can just continuously keep working because it's like fun or just gives me energy. So I think that was something that I had to mentally switch after graduating.
I love that. That sounds incredible, and I hope to find that one day. Looking back to yourselves as students, what is one thing that you wish you could tell yourself just after graduating?
I wish I wish I would give myself the permission or the confidence to go against the grain and not do consulting and just go straight into startup. That was something I knew I wanted to do, but I feel like that was maybe would have been, it's hard to explain to my parents or something, where I think that yeah, I would give myself the permission to do something different. Let's go to this early startup.
I would probably steal Emily's phrase of work smarter, not harder. I feel like right after graduation, I was just obsessed with working, no matter what it was. So it was, again, kind of going back to the saying yes to everything. And I feel like, you know, I don't have any regrets with the things I did. Like, I really enjoyed a lot of them, but I just spread myself so thin that I didn't have time to actually like zero in on what were my actual goals, what were the things I actually needed to do. You know, to reach a certain goal. Instead, I was just, well, I don't want to be seen as lazy, so let me do something 24/7 nonstop. So if I could go back, I would be like, it's okay to have some downtime. It's okay to have a moment to breathe. It's okay to have some open days on your schedule. That's going to give you the energy to recoup, to plan, to strategize, and to not run around like my hair's on fire.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna like double down on yours and kind of tie it in. I mean, I'm always like very honest about this. I worked myself so hard. I developed like such crippling anxiety that it was like almost hard for me to function for 2 years. And I had to like untrain myself those habits I learned when I graduated school. And I was not sleeping. I was sleeping 3 hours a night and functioning at the highest level the next day. And it was just, I was drinking 8 shots of espresso every 3. It was bad. It was really bad. So I think like establishing habits early, maybe it feels like you're not working as hard as everyone that's around you. Doesn't mean anything. You need to like set balance for yourself. And if you have balance for yourself, your output will always be higher in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, maybe not in that particular moment, but it's just fact. And I would also say like just slowing down and really like thinking before making decisions. I think as young people, we often like rush into things, or we're like, oh, there's an opportunity, I'm gonna grab it, I'm gonna do it, and let's go. And I think like sometimes, again, like going back to the whole like ethos thing, it maybe wasn't the right opportunity for me. And I think like taking time to think about it and be strategic, like it's not a bad thing to say no and to pass on something and to wait. Or to get opinions before you make a decision. Like, you don't know everything when you graduate. I definitely did not know everything when I still am learning. I learn from everyone every day. So I think just like learning to say no is totally okay and a healthy thing to do. Yes.
Yeah, I think off of that, you know, especially when you're coming from a prestigious place like USC, you're like, I need a job at a big Fortune 500 company, a splashy name, and you become too obsessed with working at certain companies versus what you'd actually be doing there. And I think a lot of times, especially when you're first starting off, you think of the company, you be like, I want to tell people I work at this company because that'll impress them. but what are you actually doing there and what are you necessarily learning there? You know, some places there's amazing programs, but sometimes, like some of my experiences, you're just kind of a cog in a machine. And I didn't feel like I was learning. I didn't feel like I was progressing. And I always want to be learning, you know, at every job. And I think just like telling myself, like, it's okay to just take the job at the company that nobody knows what it is, but what you're doing there is someplace you can grow, you can learn, you can make connections. And I think that's very, very like underlooked. Like, go think about the job you'd actually be doing at every company and how that's going to help you learn and grow versus, you know, I get sometimes these companies look good on your resume, but in the long run, don't just get blinded by the flash.
I love that. And I think that's a great way to end it, to open it up to questions from the audience.
So we actually have a virtual one we'll start with. So what would you recommend to someone who's trying to transition careers in this current job market?
Oh boy. I mean, I see a lot of people doing this right now because I think a lot of people are seeing it's like, I can fail at a job I hate. I want to fail at a job I love. So I feel like I see a lot of people trying to transition into entertainment right now and coming from completely different backgrounds. And what people don't realize is like, there's a lot of skills that you wouldn't think of that can transition into completely different fields. So I think it's just like write down everything you've done at your prior jobs, what you're good at, how it could relate to whatever field you're looking to go into, and just network, reach out to anyone, cold LinkedIn people, email anyone. Like, people are a lot nicer than you realize, and people want to help people, especially nowadays. So it's just like meet everyone you possibly can, informational interviews, coffees, calls, anything you can do. I know you're probably hearing that a lot, but like it truly does help. Like, trust me, we just hired someone from a similar thing. So.
I would say, and to back to double down on that. Again, kind of going back to saying of just telling people what you want. Like, it's very, very common, at least in entertainment, for people to be like, I am looking for this, this, and this. If you hear of any openings, please let me know. We just hired, I guess just, it was last year, but we hired a new coordinator and a new assistant, and they were both people that I knew. I got 300 resumes. I had one girl text me, say, hey, I've just applied, and I would really love if you could pull my resume and put that in front of your boss. I was like, sure. The other one was I just recognized his name. We had gotten coffee literally 2 years prior, both as assistants at the time, and it kind of bonded over that. And because they had put in the work of just going out and meeting people when the time came to make a decision, people like working with people they know. And it made my job easier too. I didn't have to go through 300 resumes. So yeah, I would say meet people, tell people what you're looking for, and don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Right. Questions in person right here?
I have a question for two business founders. First of all, thank you all of us for sharing your insights and experience at USC. I think in regards to startup, I was wondering, first of all, a lot of people doesn't know when's the right time or when would be the right moment or decision to make to have their own startup, because startups are usually kind of tied to risky and stressful moments, but there are also a lot of creative ideas and people involved. So I think my first question would be, what what push you to that decision to say, okay, now I think it's the right moment for me to have the startup. And then the second one would be, I know you all have like a really successful careers in your startup. So what would be one key factor for you to say grow your startup in the long run? I hope I make it clear.
Yeah, I think too, if there's a idea or a problem that you see that you can create a solution, I think that's a good indicator. If you want to de-risk, I think the easiest thing is actually to join a startup first. I think that unlocks a lot, because as a startup, you should always look for a co-founder, someone that complements you. I think one of the easiest ways is to go to a startup and find other people at that startup that you admire and that you can potentially see as a co-founder. You already have a working relationship with them, so I think it de-risks, and you could, especially in California, you could kind of moonlight do work on some other work on ideas while you're getting a salary at a startup. So it's kind of de-risking, and then once you see some traction, then you can jump ship and start it on your own. I think to your second question is about in the long run, knowing that I think it was knowing which idea. I think that knowing that it's a problem that is not just a problem that you're solving, but also a problem with that you can 10x solve better. Maybe in the initial run, it's 3x, 4x, but eventually, I think that getting to 10x is a lot would be the benchmark. And I think right now, especially with AI, maybe that's just overplaying that, but I think now is a very great time, especially it's kind of just I wasn't an adult when the web came around, so I asked people that were, but it does feel like this is the early stages of what equivalent was to the web. So it's really flipping the script. All the previous incumbents AI native solutions are going to just change the landscape.
All right, we have another virtual question. This one's for Alex. How would you describe your ethos and how do we go about developing it?
How would I describe my ethos? I mean, I did a lot of like reading and knowledge gathering over a winter vacation. A few years into, or I guess it wasn't a few years, like after I sold my first company, because I felt very lost. And that's the honest truth. Like I had a lot of success really fast. And then once I was out of it, or like the moment happened, I sold the company, I was like, I'm not happy. And I wasn't happy because I wasn't making time for myself. I had no balance. I didn't see a long career where I worked in management, but I still wanted to work in music. And so I think it was a combination of just like real soul searching. Like I started journaling. I know a lot of people do that, but I had started journaling earlier that year, and I like went back and I was like reading things that I wrote, and I was like, it just like pulling things from it that I felt like were representative of like where I wanted to go and like what mattered to me, and that just kind of stuck. The thoughts, the words, and actions, like those are all things of how we like operate internally, how we deal with people, how we deal with social interactions, how we deal with any interaction. And so I was like, I feel like I can't make decisions unless all those things are aligning. And that just kind of clicked for me one day. I know it's kind of a like weird explanation, but that's like the honest truth on how I got there. What was the other half of the question?
Kind of, I think you answered
Okay.
in terms of developing is just like doing research and reading and taking the time to.
And learning who you don't want to be. Like it's important as much, like there are so many characters within the music industry that people are told to idolize. And when you really like do the digging and like see what their deals look like and their employees and how they treat people, it's like really surprising. And sometimes like maybe that's like not my North Star. Maybe that's like not who I want to be and how like I want to go about the rest of my career. So I think it's equally like doing the work yourself, but also like looking at people that are successful and thinking about like, is that like where I see myself? So I don't know if that was a good answer, but
For sure. How about a question in the room over here?
Thank you all for being here. My question for all of you is, what are some challenges or maybe failures that you've encountered up to this point, and how have you overcome them?
I was like half quit, half was fired from my first job, like a few months after graduation. And it was like my dream job. And I just don't think I was ready for it at that time, but I learned so much from that. in terms of that was not the right fit. And I did not want to be an agent. And realizing, honestly, it was like, I think having a lot of no's and failures early in my career bucked me up a lot. And then I'm like, you can't hurt me anymore. I mean, you still can, but it made me so much more open because, you know, the day after that, as I was driving home, I think I sent out like 300 resumes. I'm calling, emailing everyone because it's like I just graduated college not that long ago, and now I had my dream job and now I don't. And then after that, it's like now I've been at my company for 7 years. I've moved my way up from assistant. I started as a CEO's assistant, and there was no way I would have been ready even for that job if I had not failed at that first job, because I looked at everything I did wrong, what I learned from that, the people I met from that, and I think I was really ashamed and embarrassed of that and kind of hid that for the longest time. But I would not be where I am if I didn't fail, and I'm so glad because it led me to my dream job.
My biggest failure was for my first company not picking the right co-founder. And not realizing it until the company was really earning and I couldn't go back. And I think had I done more of the exercises I was describing earlier and like really thinking about like what my shortcomings are, what my strengths are, and like to your point earlier, finding someone that just like complements that and also like will ride and like to the end with you. I think like a lot of people took advantage of me when I was a few years out of school because I was moving really fast and having a lot of success, and they wanted to jump on the train but weren't really like adding value to what I was doing. But in my head, I'm like, oh, this person graduated in Ivy League. They have their MBA. They are an amazing accountant. Like, I was none of those things. And I thought that, like, that's what I need. That's who I have to go with. It's the first person that's, you know, wants to jump in and get involved. And, like, it wasn't the right fit. And so the second time around, I did a lot of thinking. I ended up partnering with my business manager. She knew my business through and through. She was business management for all of my clients. And it's been a super fruitful partnership. We've been able to scale faster than we did with my first company, get like financing faster. So it was a big failure, but I'm glad that it happened when it did and that it wasn't more destructive than it could have been. And honestly, I take like full responsibility for that myself. Like, I didn't know that that was like going to be what it was, but I took that experience and I'm doing it different this time around. And like, any entrepreneur will tell you that they've had a failure like that at some point, I think, earlier in their career, and I'm just glad it happened when it did, and I don't regret it, but I've definitely learned from it.
I would say one of my biggest hurdles has been setting boundaries with my time with employers. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I love to say yes to everything, and I found myself in like different jobs where I didn't want to say, no, I can't be available 24/7 because I was always afraid an opportunity was going to slip by. And so I had like a stint for a year where I was getting calls at like 7 p.m. on a Sunday being like, can you drop everything and get on this, you know, this Zoom right now? And I was like, yes, I can. But it's really hard to have a life when you are just at the whim of somebody else's schedule. Thankfully, when I switched companies, I kind of just like right off the bat was like, this is a 9 to 5. I don't work weekends. And they were like, okay. And I was like, wait, that worked. Like I can have some time to myself. And I think it's one of those things, whenever you are in a new business, partnership, or a new job, set those boundaries first and early. I was about 3 months into my job when I realized, oh crap, I have no time to myself, and I couldn't like go back and change that, which is how I ended up in that pattern for a year. So protect your time.
Yeah, so I think for failure, I think it's an interesting question because the definition to me is a little bit different, maybe than everyone else. It's kind of just like to me, it's like if something didn't go the way that it was predicted, then and you didn't learn from it, then I think that's failure. I think that if you learn from it, then it's not a failure, it's an opportunity to learn. And I think that if we live life like thinking that things that don't go the way we want it to go, was failure, then I think you would be very fearful to fail. But I think especially in startup, it's, I mean, if by the normal definition, my career is just full of failures. First year we pivoted about 12 times, one pivot a month, but we never tried the same thing twice. We always learned from that and just gathered the more data, and then just like, okay, this after surveying the playing field, now this is here's a product that we can be proud of that's hopefully solving an actual problem.
Another virtual question. So I know Alex said it was a surprise to find out that you were nominated for the Forbes 30 Under 30, but can each of you maybe share like who specifically nominated you, and if somebody's interested in sending in a nomination, do you know what that is? What that process is?
I nominated myself. I said, I want this. I'm doing it. And I did the thing where I told people that I wanted to do this. I was like on my vision board. And so when the nominations opened, people told me. They were like, hey, this is something that you said you wanted. They're open. I think they probably opened in like August or something. And you literally, like, I found out I had made it to the second round because they had sent me like a really lengthy, like, Google. Alex? But yeah, no, you can. It's like a form on Forbes. I don't know, Google it in like August.
There we go. So everybody look up the form if you're interested and either submit yourself or during your next check-in with your supervisor, slide it over, right? Okay. Yeah. Questions in the audience in here? Right here, go ahead.
First of all, thank you all so much for being here. I love you guys' advice, really appreciate it. I have a question for Weston. What inspired you to start Eat Prepared?
Great question. My first startup, I think I got burnt out, and I definitely put my body on the line. It was not getting enough sleep, feeling really like low on energy. I had like 5 different fast food apps to get the latest discounts. I think there's Whopper Wednesdays, that was only $1, and French Free Fries Friday. And so, no, my body was wrecked. I was gaining a lot of weight, and in fact, like, I went to Mammoth this past weekend, and I'm so glad I was able to make it, but I actually had, it's called HAPE. It's a high altitude sickness. Oh. And it's a severe one where my lungs were filling up with liquid and everything, had to get rushed to the ER. So glad to be here.
So sorry. They're still coming.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so glad to be here. They're like, I had two more days left at Mammoth, and they're like, no, you gotta get down back home, back to altitude, or else you're gonna die. Like, I was like, okay, like guess I'm finding a ride back home. So, but yeah, I think that was an omen to start. I think I just saw the writing on the wall where I'm not getting any younger, that this was something that I needed to do for myself, so where I can perform at my best, but also eat healthy, and usually people see that as like a give and take, but I think with this, with the Eat Prepared, it's actually going to be an unlock where you can eat chef prepared meals, get it delivered, and it's tailored to you. AI, throw in some AI, and that's how it's able to customize it to your nutrition, where I think that's going, like, what we're seeing is that it's a huge performance unlock where I feel great, and then knowing it'll let you know when to eat your meals, and to optimize sleep, recovery. Sorry if it's feeling like a commercial.
Awesome. We have time for one more question, and there's one in the virtual space. We'll get to 2 questions. So virtually, this kind of goes off of what Weston was saying about burnout. Can each of you discuss maybe how you combat burnout and how you recovered without maybe leaving a job.
I started, this is so silly, but I literally had to start color coding my calendar to make sure I had social time. So social rest time was purple. And if I saw no purple for 2 weeks on my calendar, I knew I was in trouble. So I needed that visual reminder of like, you need to rest, you need to recuperate, you know, go spend time with friends, go see a movie, go sleep in, have a night in. So I think, like, as like unsexy as that sounds, like I had to just start like tracking my rest and being like, okay, cool, I had a down night.
Yeah, I think like any person that is high performing, whether it's like academically or an athlete or whatever, is like really aggressive about routine. I was always really aggressive about routine, but similarly, like wasn't making time for things that were healthy. And specifically for me, things that didn't include my cell phone or my laptop. So for me, it was like things where I was completely removed from technology for at least an hour at a time. And that didn't include the gym because I would still pull out my phone when I was lifting weights or whatever it was. I like picked up surfing. Like I love the ocean. I like started surfing. And for me, that was like a very healthy thing. It was like locking my phone in the car and going on a walk. It was like agreeing every night, like I'm putting my phone, like I am locking my phone. I got that app, I forget what it's called, where it like locks your phone. Like I do not use my phone after 9 p.m. I do not doom scroll on social media. And that like just created so much space in my brain that I felt more energized and rested and less tired and less like full of useless, not productive information that was weighing me down. And so for me, it was like finding any way to turn my phone off and like adding healthy things into my routine. I should color code. That sounds really good.
Yeah, all of those things. Like I started like running, training for half marathon. I don't know, great mental, all of that. But also, I think remembering trying to do things that remind me why I love my job, and kind of reconnecting with why I got into it. So you know, sometimes it's like when you're doing the same thing, not the same thing, but you're going at it day to day, day to day. You know, I was kind of starting to feel this way in January, and then we had Sundance and just kind of getting outside of my normal day to day, going and seeing colleagues in a completely different environment and seeing cool movies and creative movies and talking with all these up and coming like writers, directors, like younger execs, and just hearing their excitement for this industry and for this job. And then it rubbed off on me, and I came back, even though I was like working the whole time, it's like I came back refreshed and remembered I love my job, and it's like it almost helped cure the burnout. It was just like reconnecting with like why you love that job, whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe just summing it up, and I'm seeing some themes here. It's like, of course, the question was first is what if you had to stay at your job? I think first is maybe leave the job, but if I had the caveat where I gotta stay at the job, but I think for my actions, I left the job. So, but I do understand where it was maybe find ways to restore that energy after burnout. Maybe that's through friends or watching a movie. I think finding things that is in a healthy way. I wouldn't. I'm sober now. I don't want to drink. So I think it's like don't go clubbing or anything where I think that's taking away energy at some points. It's like a short-term benefit, but I think finding something that is relaxing or go hiking, and I think also to echo the friends, a group of friends that not only just are there for you, but also that can understand where you're coming from. So similar background or industry where they know what you're going through. My parents have no idea what I'm going through. And they're like, when are you going to get a real job? So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, last question.
Thank you all for being here, but a question for the two people that are in film and TV. It's been a long 2 years in film and TV. how have you spent your time and what keeps you going every morning?
It's been a long, like, 5 years.
Nothing into stress.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, yeah, and then with all of the mergers and the merger is still to happen, like, it's scary out there, and it's, you know, obviously there's been a lot of consolidation, there's a lot less shows going, there's a lot less jobs. You know, I am going back to, it's like I started the big companies, and I've been in a small startup that started in like 2018, and so we hit, like, as a baby company, we were hitting all of the, you know, the strikes, COVID, more strikes, and it was, you know, my company handled it. I love the leadership. They handled it so well. We didn't have to furlough anyone because we just kept it very small and tight, and we didn't have a lot of overhead expenses at the time. But it was rough because I wasn't allowed to talk for like a year. My job is talking and working with writers, actors, directors, and I was not allowed to talk or work with any writers or any actors. And there's only so much you can do with a director if you don't have a script or actors. So I felt like I met every director in town, but it was just, I really kind of used that time to build out my network of other agents, execs in that downtime, and just getting to know people in the industry on a friendly level. And it has made, now that we're back and things are just going, it's made the job so much more pleasant again. And it makes me, like, I enjoy all the people I'm working with, and I love the relationships I have. And I read a lot. I read everything. I read every book. I read every script. I read everything I got my hands on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the strike was the first time I was actually caught up on my script reading list. I was like, oh, there's nothing really else to do. Yeah, it's been a rough couple of years. I especially, like, personally for me, it's like I am out here to be an actor and a writer. And so when the pandemic hit, I like tell people, I'm like, I accidentally became head of development because it was like I was doing the acting and the writing, and then the whole world shut down and I needed a job. And that's how I ended up with a Tony nominated director. I was her assistant for a year. Then I had the connection from USC who got me the job at Cold Iron. I was like, wow, I'm meeting so many more people working at a company than I am just on my own. And you know, fell in love with the process of making indie movies. And I would say during the strike, yeah, it was a lot of like
Blur.
Yeah, it was kind of a blur. It was like I went and volunteered at like a film festival because I was like, there's nothing to do right now. And then, you know, there's a lot of, yeah, I guess internals, just like clerical work, it almost felt like. Yeah, the strikes were rough. I'm glad they happened. I think it was necessary, absolutely. But it's also hard to see that many colleagues out of work too. That was a really hard part of it was, and I mean, and with all the agencies merging or disappearing, we had just a lot of friends and colleagues out of work for the past 2-3 years. So that's just, it's rough. And, but I think it, in a weird way, like brought people together. I don't know. It was like a weird. Yeah, I know. I'm like trying to spin it. I'm like, it was rough. There was no work, and everybody was pissed for like 2 years. So.
And on that note, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Let's give them a round of applause. You guys were absolutely incredible, and I think I speak for everyone when I say that your insights were just absolutely incredible and meaningful to all of us and everyone virtually as well. Thank you all for joining us. So I will share everyone's social media. Please feel free to follow them on socials and everything. You can ask them afterwards as well. Take a picture of the slide, but follow their journeys and see what they do. Forbes 40 under 40. Anyone?
It's a 60 under 60 for the ladies.
Isn't there? It's 50 over 50.
50 over 50.
It's over, which I love.
Oh, I like that. All right, next goal for your dream boards. I love it. So follow them and see where they go with their journey and see all the amazing things that they have to come. So we'll do that. And with that, I will pass it over to, next slide. I'll pass it over to Roberta.
Yes, so again, thank you so much to all of you as well for joining us. There are some really great programs taking place both by the Young Alumni Council, but also the broader Alumni Association, including, first off, our Women's Conference. It's going to be Friday, March 7th. It's here on campus. We have a full day of amazing programming all about empowering women to be their best selves. So join us for Women's Conference. Alex has served on a planning committee before, so
Yeah, it's fun. It's great.
It's really fun, seriously.
it's really fun, but it's a great day and it's very empowering. So join us. Day of service, that's going to be on March 22nd. No matter where you are, we have projects all around the world, and they are alumni-driven service projects helping different communities. So be sure to look up the projects. I think we just finished the submissions on January 31st. So you should see around mid-February or so those signups opening for you. Negotiating your salary. We're actually working with the Career Center to bring a virtual webinar to you. So if you'd like to join and figure out how to advocate for yourself, join us on March 26th. It'll be from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Our first time homebuyer workshop is the following week on April 2nd. So even if you're not ready to buy a home, that's totally understandable, but there's a whole game plan that we can give you. That way you can work towards that, whether that's in your